You're uninvited. That was the text. No apology, no explanation. Just 5 words that erased me from my own family. 1 week earlier, I had wired $25,000 for that gala. Seaside Pavilion, full package. Venue, $12,000. Catering, $8,400. Decor and flowers, $4,600. My name on every invoice. Paid in full, non-refundable. And now, she doesn't want old people there. I read it twice, then again. My hands shook so hard the coffee spilled across the table. I wasn't angry yet. Not the loud kind. It was the quiet kind. The kind that burns, that whispers, "You took my love and turned it into charity." For 2 nights, I didn't sleep. I replayed every thank you, every fake smile, every time I said yes, just to stay included. And then it hit me. Inclusion was never the point. Control was. So the night before the gala, I acted. I called the pavilion. "Cancel the event," I said. Then the florist, the caterer, the DJ, 4 calls, 4 clicks, $25,000, gone. My son called 53 times that night. I let it ring until the sound became part of the silence. When I finally picked up, I said 5 words that ended the conversation for good. "The party's over, so is pretending." If this reminds you of someone in your own family, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments. Because somewhere along the way, respect became optional. I was never one for grand gestures or noise. After Robert passed 5 years ago, the house in Charleston became my quiet orbit. 3 bedrooms, 2 floors, 12 windows that still creak when the wind changes. My days moved by small rituals, trimming roses, watering the mint by the porch, teaching piano to the neighbor's little girl who always missed the keys but never lost her smile. The house was too big for one woman, but the silence was kinder when it belonged only to me. That evening, the air smelled of jasmine and salt. A southern night, gold walls, slow radio hum, the kind of peace you don't realize you've been defending. I had just poured tea when my tablet lit up. Lila calling. Her face filled the screen. 16, freckles, string lights tangled behind her. "Grammy, you look so cozy." "Cozy?" I teased. "It's just code for old, isn't it?" She laughed. "No, you look peaceful. I miss you." "I miss you too, sweetheart. How's school?" She groaned. "Tiring. Everyone's talking about graduation parties. Madison's renting a yacht. Sophia's doing sushi bars and fairy lights. Her voice dropped. "I want something special, not huge, just meaningful." That word, meaningful, hit straight in my chest. After Robert's death, Lila was the one who drew hearts on my birthday cards, texted silly memes, called me the cookie grandma. Every time she said Grammy, it stitched another little piece of me back together. "What kind of special?" I asked. "There's this place, Seaside Pavilion, by the harbor. They do full setups, live band, everything. I saw it on TikTok. It's beautiful, Grammy. Imagine the sea, the lights, everyone dressed up. It would be perfect." Before I could answer, Clara appeared behind her, polite smile, cold eyes. "Lila, don't bother your grandmother with that," she said. "I'm fine, Clara," I answered evenly. "It's nice to dream with her." Her lips tightened before she walked away. I noticed. I always notice. Lila leaned closer. "I just want a night that feels like us. Not just fancy, something everyone will remember." "Everyone?" I asked softly. She nodded. "Everyone from school and family." Family. The word landed warm, like sunlight through lace. It had been a long time since I'd felt part of anything larger than my garden. "I'll think about it," I said, though my heart had already signed the check. Her face lit up. "Really? Grammy, you're the best. You always make things happen." Her laughter filled the kitchen, bouncing off the quiet walls. For a moment, Charleston felt alive again. When the call ended, the screen went dark, but her smile stayed glowing in my mind. I reached for the photo on the shelf, Robert holding Lila as a baby, his wedding ring catching light. He used to say, "Love is giving them wings, but teaching them how to land." I traced the frame. "I think I'm about to give her wings, Robert." Outside, a train moaned somewhere past the marsh. I took it as a sign. I opened my old checkbook, the one untouched since the funeral, and placed it beside Robert's ring dish. The ink on the first line read faintly, "Green Household, 2018. I smiled through the ache. It felt good to be needed again. If I had known how much it would cost, Not in money, but in faith. I might have thought twice. But that night, with jasmine in the air and the sea whispering through the window, I believed love was still safe. It wasn't. Dinner at Daniel and Clara's house always looked perfect. From the outside. A 12-foot table, linen napkins folded at 45 degrees, candles burning evenly like soldiers. The kind of dinner that photographs well but feels hollow in person. Daniel sat at the head, blazer still on, scrolling through emails between bites. If conflict were weather, my son would rather drown quietly than open an umbrella. Across from me, Clara adjusted the silverware until it reflected her face just right. Presentation matters, she said, like love was something that could be plated. Lila filmed everything. Dinner with the fam. Mom's lasagna, Grammy's salad, Dad pretending to work. She giggled, phone tilted for the best light. Daniel waved half-heartedly. Clara's smile was perfect, wide, bright, rehearsed. Mine was background blur. When Lila put the phone down, Clara turned to me. Her tone was honey with a hint of iron. The gala will be wonderful content, Martha. Maybe wear something pastel. It fits the brand. The brand? I repeated. I thought this was a graduation. Her smile flickered. Of course, but everything we share online shapes perception. We just want it to look cohesive. Cohesive? As if I were part of a color palette. Daniel cleared his throat. Clara's gotten a few sponsorships. The gala could boost her numbers. So it's not just a party, I said. It's marketing. Clara laughed too loudly. Oh, Martha, you make it sound so cold. It's about celebrating Lila and family. People love that. I didn't ask who people were. I just watched as Lila filmed again, catching me mid-chew. Later, that clip appeared on her story, Family Dinner Goals. 12 seconds of perfection, minus the truth. After dessert, Clara opened her laptop. I've found a venue, she said. Seaside Pavilion, ocean backdrop, drone footage, highlight reel. It'll be unforgettable. Lila gasped. Can we really get drone shots? Daniel sighed. Do we need drone shots? Clara smiled. It's not about need. It's about memory. Then she looked at me. Layla said you wanted to help with the budget. I'll send the breakdown. She knew exactly when to ask. Right there in front of Lila. I smiled. Send it over. By the time I got home, the email was waiting. Total, $24,850. Optional extras, floral arch, 1,200, videographer, 900, dessert wall, 450 else. A pink note at the bottom read, not necessary, but they elevate the experience. I stared at those words. Elevate the experience. Funny how elevate always costs extra. Before bed, I scrolled through Clara's latest post. Lila holding a bouquet. Caption, dreams in progress. Family means everything. Thousands of likes. In one video, my face flashed in the background. Blurred, smiling faintly. A guest in my own bloodline. For a moment, I imagined deleting everything. The photos, the captions, the illusion. But I didn't. I just closed the app and the lights. Lying in the dark, I realized something simple and sharp. They didn't invite me for dinner. They auditioned me for content. And the cruelest part? I passed the audition. I just didn't make the final cut. The seaside pavilion looked like something out of a movie. Glass walls facing the harbor, fairy lights suspended like captured stars, salt and lilies in the air, the kind of beauty that makes you forget it's for sale. We stood there, 3 generations, 3 versions of belief, while a young event manager named Paige led us across the marble floor. Isn't it perfect? Lila gasped. Grammy, look at that view. I looked. The sea shimmered silver, the kind of light that makes everything feel permanent. Beautiful, yes. But beauty often hides the bill. Paige smiled, towelette in hand. Our standard graduation package includes decor, catering, DJ, floral design, full customization available. How much? I asked. She scrolled. Base price $12,000, with catering and decor around $25,000. $25,000. The number landed heavy, almost the same as the roof estimate sitting in my kitchen drawer. $8,400 for repairs I hadn't done yet. Beside me, Clara's tone turned sweet. It's an investment in memories, Martha. You can't put a price on something she'll remember forever. Lila tugged my arm. Fairy lights, ocean breeze, live band. Please, Grammy. It'll be magical. Her joy was pure. I could almost see it. her laughter under the lights, her future unfolding like a photograph I'd never be in. Paige handed me a brochure, gold edges, embossed logo. We just need a small deposit to hold the date. Before I could answer, Clara placed her manicured hand on my shoulder. You'll make her dream come true, Martha. This will be your legacy. Legacy. A word that sounds like love, but usually means debt. All right, I said quietly. Let's do it. Paige brightened. Wonderful. The contract just needs a signature. We followed her into a sunlit office. White chairs, marble table, view of the ocean glinting like approval. Lila filmed everything. The pavilion logo, the light on the glass, her own reflection. Grammy, smile, she chirped. I did. It felt like compliance. From behind the lens, Clara said, 3 generations of women making history together. History, another word that photographs well but ages poorly. The contract waited, 10 pages, elegant font, non-refundable clause in bold. Would you like time to think it over? Paige asked. Clara answered for me. Martha likes to get things done. The pen felt heavier than gold. Then Lila slipped her arm through mine. Thank you, Grammy. I can't believe this is happening. That look, the unfiltered happiness of someone too young to see manipulation, broke the last bit of resistance. I signed. My hand trembled slightly. The ink caught the light like a wound. Paige smiled, gathering the pages. I barely heard her cheerful talk about invoices and due dates. Outside, the sun was sinking, gold bleeding into water. Lila leaned on the railing, the wind catching her hair. Clara took a selfie, framing the two of them against the sea. I stayed back, watching through the glass. Their reflection glowed, mother and daughter, radiant, confident, whole. Mine hovered behind them, smaller, dimmer, almost erased. Everything's coming together, Clara said, sliding her phone into her purse. Yes, I replied, it's beautiful. She looped her arm through mine. This means so much to Lila, and to me. You've always been such a giver. A giver. Her favorite word for me. She didn't realize it wasn't a compliment. It was a title. Unpaid. Unending. We left as the next event began. Music swelled, upbeat, expensive. Lila hummed along. Clara checked her phone. I stared out the car window, watching the black water flash past under the lights. Robert's voice echoed in my head. Be careful what you give. Some people will take it all and still call it love. When we reached their driveway, Clara smiled. Martha, truly thank you. You have no idea how much this means. I smiled back. I think I do. At home, I placed the signed contract on the counter beside my checkbook. Pages crisp, half the balance gone. The roof would wait another year. The ink shimmered under the lamp. Delicate, final. I had thought I'd just bought my granddaughter's happiness. But looking at that paper, I realized the truth. I hadn't bought love. I just prepaid my disappearance. The morning the message came, the house smelled of coffee and sea air. Sunlight spilled across the kitchen table, the same table where I'd left the $25,000 contract for Lila's Gala, neatly folded beside the receipt. I remember thinking I might frame it someday, a token of the day I helped make her dream real. The kettle clicked off. I poured the water, the hiss of steam filling the quiet. Then my phone buzzed. Clara Bennett. For a moment I smiled, maybe an update about flowers or music. I wiped my hands and opened the message. Hey Martha, we've decided to keep the gala for Lila's friends only. Hope you understand. We'll celebrate with you later. I read it once, then again. Hope you understand. Such gentle words, so polite, but they cut with surgeon's precision. I sat down, phone still in hand. The kitchen clock ticked, sharp, steady, like it was counting the seconds it took for a person to disappear. Keep it for friends only. I stared at the screen, waiting for it to change, to mean something else, but it didn't. It was final. Cheerful, dismissive, absolute. My chest felt hollow, the papers on the table blurred, contract, receipts, my handwriting looping across the payment line, $25,000 paid in full. Hope you understand. Understand what, exactly? That gray hair ruins a photo? That family love expires once it's no longer marketable? That money buys silence, not respect? I called Daniel. He answered on the third ring, voice still half asleep. Hey, Mom, everything okay? Daniel, I said steady but low. Did Clara just text me that I'm uninvited from Lila's gala? Silence. Then a sigh. The kind that means guilt but pretends it's reason. Mom, don't take it personally, okay? Lila just wants it to feel modern. You know, a young crowd. A young crowd, I repeated. Yeah, adults might make it awkward. It's not about you, it's just the vibe. The vibe. That word had replaced values. Please don't make this a big deal, Daniel said. We'll celebrate later. Daniel, I said quietly, I paid for everything. I know, and we're grateful. No, I cut in. Do you understand what that means? He hesitated. Mom, please, don't ruin this. Ruin this. The irony burned hotter than anger. Okay, I said finally. I won't. When I hung up, the house went cold. The waves outside sounded sharper, slicing through the silence. I lifted my cup, my hands were shaking, and spilled a few drops on the contract. The coffee spread slowly, darkening the paper, bleeding over the printed numbers. $25,000, swallowed by brown. The ring it left behind looked like blood, a perfect circle, a wound made of faith. I thought about calling Clara, asking her to say it to my face, but I could already hear her voice. Oh, Martha, don't be hurt. We just want Lila to have her night. Her night, paid for by me, built by me, without me. For the rest of the morning, I moved through the house like a ghost, dusted the same corner twice, rearranged a vase that didn't need rearranging. Every movement was a placeholder for the apology that never came. By noon, the phone was still silent. I sat on the porch, watching gulls carve through the gray sky. 3 words, hope you understand, had erased years of Sunday dinners, family photos, and quiet forgiveness. By evening, the coffee stain had dried into the paper. I traced its edge with my fingertips, steady now. Something inside me had shifted. Not rage, not grief, just clarity. They'd mistaken my kindness for weakness, my giving for obedience, my silence for approval. And maybe it was time to teach them the price of mistaking mercy for permission. I folded the contract, slid it back into its envelope, and tucked it beside Robert's ring. Then I brewed another cup, darker, stronger. Outside, the first stars appeared, small, defiant, uninvited by anyone. I whispered to the quiet room, I do understand, Clara. I really do. Then I looked at that stain one last time and thought, understanding isn't forgiveness. It's the moment you stop pretending it was love. I called Daniel that afternoon. Dinner tonight? I asked, keeping my voice steady. Just us. A pause, long enough to tell me he was already choosing words. Sure, Mom. What time? 7, I said. I'll cook. By sunset, the house smelled of roasted chicken, rosemary, and the kind of effort people mistake for peace. He arrived with a bottle of red, $28 Merlot, label still crisp, as if wine could fix what silence had broken. Smells great, he said, placing it on the counter. It should, I replied. It cost me a roof. He gave a small laugh, unsure whether it was a joke. I didn't clarify. We sat at the same oak table Robert and I bought 40 years ago. Still solid, though the polish had dulled. The candles flickered. The air between us didn't move. I poured him a glass. He glanced around restless. I let him wait. Then I said, I got a text from Clara. His jaw tightened. Not surprise, recognition. She said the gala's for Lila's friends only. You'll celebrate with me later. He sighed. Mom, please. Don't make this harder than it is. You know how teenagers are. I reached under the table and slid a folder toward him. Receipts, I said. Venue, catering, DJ, flowers, photographer, $25,000, all from my savings, the roof fund. He opened it slowly, as if the pages might cut. You paid all this? Every cent. Clara told me you insisted, that it was your idea. I looked at him, really looked. The gray at his temples, the boy still hiding behind the man. She also said I'd be there. Daniel rubbed his forehead. I'll talk to her. I almost laughed. You've been saying that since you were 15. He blinked. Mom? Every time someone crossed a line, you said you'd talk to them? You never did. You just waited for things to smooth out. And they always did. For everyone but me. Mom, that's not fair. It's not about fair, I said. It's about truth. You married a woman who treats love like content, and you're raising a daughter who's learning to do the same. He flinched. Don't bring Lila into this. I have to, because she's still young enough to change. But she won't, not if you keep showing her that silence is easier than honesty. Daniel's eyes dropped. What do you want me to do, Mom? Fight Clara over a party? No, I said softly. Fight for your family. For gratitude. For decency. He leaned back, exhaling. It's complicated. It's only complicated because you let it be. We sat in silence. The clock ticked twice, then hesitated, as if even time didn't want to interrupt. Finally, he picked up the folder again, scanning the handwritten notes. My blue ink read, paid in full, April 12th. His lips parted slightly. Jesus, Mom, I had no idea. No, you didn't, I said, because you never asked. He looked up. That's not fair. Neither is being erased. The words hit the air like glass cracking. He pushed back from the table. I'll fix this. I'll talk to her tonight. I nodded. Of course you will. He stood, shoulders slumped. The tie hung loose, his face tired. A man raised to keep peace even when it cost him truth. At the door, he paused. Mom, I'm sorry. For all of it. I smiled faintly. I know. When he left, the headlights disappeared down the street, swallowed by fog. The house went still, the kind of stillness that has a heartbeat. I looked at the table. 2 untouched plates, half a bottle of wine, the open folder of receipts, $25,000 in paper form. And then it hit me. The cruel symmetry. My son had inherited more than my eyes. He'd inherited my weakness, the habit of mistaking endurance for love. I blew out the candles, one by one. The last flame struggled, then died, leaving a single ribbon of smoke curling toward the ceiling. He said he'd talk to her. I realized he already had. In the only language our family ever spoke. Silence. The rain began softly that night, tapping the window like it was testing my resolve. I sat at the kitchen table, the same one where I'd once graded Daniel's homework. Now it held a cold cup of coffee, an open laptop, and the faint reflection of a woman who'd finally had enough. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the storm whispering against the glass. Even the waves outside sounded slower, heavier, like the world itself was holding its breath. On the screen, 4 names glowed in pale blue. Seaside Pavilion, Yepes Catering, DJ Soundwave, Petal and Stem Florist, each one a promise I'd already paid for, each one a reminder of how easily love becomes debt. I moved the cursor over the first email. My hand trembled slightly, but not from fear, from the weight of finally choosing myself. Subject, cancellation notice. Dear Paige, please cancel the Williams graduation event scheduled for June 22nd. I understand all penalties. Martha Green. I read it once, steady, then I hit send. The sound was small, just a click, but inside it thundered. Next, the caterer. Please cancel all services for June 22nd. Consider the payment final. Send. Then the DJ. Event canceled. Do not proceed with setup. Send. Finally, the florist. Cancel delivery. Please donate the flowers to a local nursing home. Send. 4 emails. 4 clicks. $25,000 released back into silence. The rain thickened, drumming harder against the roof. For a moment, it sounded like applause. Quiet, distant, but honest. Somewhere across town, screens would light up. Planners would frown, schedules would shift. And just like that, the illusion I'd built for them began to dissolve. It didn't make me sad. It made me still. For months, I'd lived like background noise, needed for every payment, forgotten in every frame. But now, I was visible again. The laptop dimmed to black. In the reflection, I saw my own face. Older, yes, but certain. Behind me, a single candle flickered. I rose and lit another. Its glow reached the photo of Robert above the piano, his smile steady, his eyes amused like he already knew. Robert, I whispered, you'd be proud. I finally said no. The words came out calm, almost sacred. I hadn't realized how much of my life had been built on yes. Yes to helping, yes to forgiving, yes to being quiet, and every yes had cost me a small piece of myself. Tears slid down my face, not from grief, but relief, like rain leaving a clean roof behind. I blew out the first candle. The smoke curled upward, soft and certain. The house creaked as wind moved through the walls. The salt air pressed against the glass. Somewhere beyond the storm, I could almost hear Robert's voice. "Martha, don't let them take the best parts of you." "I won't," I said aloud. The laptop screen slept, but I didn't need to check it. I knew what waited there. 4 messages sent, 4 witnesses that I'd finally chosen self-respect over approval. Outside, the rain slowed. Streetlights turned the wet pavement to silver. I turned off the lamp and stood by the window. For the first time in years, I didn't feel erased. I felt real. It wasn't the loss of $25,000 that brought tears. It was realizing how much it had cost me to stay quiet. When I finally went to bed, the storm had passed. The only sound left was the ocean, steady, endless, patient, like a heartbeat that had been waiting for me to listen. They called it rain. But for me, it was baptism, the night I washed their permission off my name. The rain had stopped by the time the first call came. The storm had drifted out to sea, leaving the air thick and clean. I sat on the couch in my robe, a single candle burning low on the counter, waxed down to its last inch. The clock read 11:47 p.m. The phone buzzed. "Clara?" I didn't answer. It rang again, 5 minutes later. Then again. And again. By the 10th call, I turned it face down, but the vibration still cut through the silence like a siren. Desperate, persistent, afraid. By the 25th, it was Daniel. His name lit the screen, smiling in an old photo taken before life carved its worry lines. I stared until the screen dimmed. By the 57th, it was Lila. That one stopped me. Her name, Lila Green Williams, glowing on the glass, pulled something deep inside me. My fingers trembled for the first time that night. I almost didn't answer. Almost. "Grammy?" Her voice was small, shaky. Behind her, I heard muffled crying. Maybe hers, maybe Clara's. Before I could reply, Daniel's voice broke in, tight with panic. "Mom, please, you can't do this." I stayed calm. "I didn't do this to her, Daniel. She did it to me." Silence. Then Clara, sharp, trembling, furious. "Martha, do you have any idea what you've done? You're ruining her future. Her friends, the school, the sponsors. Everyone's going to know." "Her perfect night?" I asked softly. "Yes," she snapped. "She's humiliated. You're punishing her." I closed my eyes. "No, Clara. I'm saving her from learning too late. Because if she grows up thinking it's fine to take from people and discard them when they're inconvenient, she'll end up with everything she wants and nothing worth keeping." Silence stretched, filled only by shallow breathing. Daniel finally spoke, voice cracking. "Mom, it's not the time to teach lessons." "When is the time then?" I asked. "When she's 35 and treating her own child this way? When you're gone and all she remembers is that her grandmother paid for a party she wasn't allowed to attend?" "Stop," he whispered. I heard him choke. "Please." "I already have," I said. I stopped saying yes. A rustle. Clara again. "You don't understand what you've done. You've destroyed months of work. You've made us look ridiculous." "I didn't destroy anything," I replied. "I just stopped pretending it was real." Her voice rose to a shriek. "Do you think this makes you righteous? A hero?" "No," I said. "It makes me honest." The line went still. Somewhere on their end, I heard rain starting again, faint, uneven. I pictured their house, lights blazing, decorations half-packed, panic blooming like mold. Clara pacing, Daniel rubbing his temples. Lila on the stairs, trying to make sense of the ruin. Then Clara's voice returned, smaller, cracking at the edges. "Martha, can't we fix this? Please, we'll find another date, another venue." "There's nothing to fix," I said. "You wanted a night without me. Now you have one." A small sob slipped through. Not Clara's. Lila's. "Grammy," she whispered. "I didn't mean to hurt you." My throat tightened. My voice didn't. "I know, sweetheart. But meaning doesn't erase doing. Someday you'll understand that." "Please," she cried. "Everyone's going to ask what happened." "Then tell them the truth," I said. "Tell them your grandmother remembered her own worth." Clara muttered something. My name, maybe a curse. Then the line went dead. I stared at the black screen. The reflection staring back looked older, yes, but alive. Color in the cheeks again, light in the eyes. The phone buzzed once more. "Daniel." I didn't answer. I set it face down, stood, and walked to the window. Outside, the ocean stretched black and endless, the surface still trembling from the storm. My reflection in the glass looked fragile at first glance, but the longer I stared, the stronger it seemed. Not weakness, not regret, pride. Because now they weren't afraid of losing me. They were afraid of losing the control that came with my kindness. I wasn't just the grandmother who paid for dinners and smiled in photos. I was the woman who built her own peace, even if it meant burning every bridge that led to it. The phone buzzed again, lighting the room for a moment, then fading. I poured another cup of coffee, black, unsweetened, and sat back down. The air smelled of rain and melted wax. The waves rolled steady outside, relentless. They would call again in the morning. They would explain, negotiate, rewrite, but I was done being edited. I traced the rim of the cup, listening to the sea. Somewhere beyond the dark, the tide was still moving, unstoppable, uninvited. And for the first time in years, I realized I was too. They thought the storm would drown me, but it just taught me how to breathe underwater. I hadn't slept much. The house was too still, too aware of what I'd done. Every creak sounded like a reminder that by morning, the world would know the Gala was gone. Outside, the sky shifted from blue to gold. The last of the storm dissolved over the water. 6:30 a.m., I stood, stretched, and started the coffee. The smell rose, dark, bitter, grounding. Habit kept me steady. I whisked pancake batter, the way Lila liked it. Too much sugar, a dash of vanilla. Not because I expected her, just because gentleness felt right after a night that had burned everything else clean. Then came the pounding, not knocking, pounding. I froze, turned off the stove, and walked to the door. Through the small window, I saw her. Barefoot, pajama pants soaked from the grass, eyes swollen red. I opened the door. "Grammy?" she gasped. "Please. Everyone's expecting the gala. The venue called. It's canceled. The caterer, the DJ. Everyone's asking me what happened. Please, just fix this." She clutched her phone like it could hold her world together. "Come inside," I said. "You're cold." She stepped in. The smell of pancakes met her halfway. For a moment, she looked 5 again. Small, messy, human. I poured her a glass of orange juice, the same kind I used to make when she stayed here for summers. The pan hissed softly. Outside, birds sang like nothing had changed. "Why did you do it?" she whispered. I looked at her, trembling hands, chipped nail polish, innocence cracking under pressure. "Tell me, sweetheart, what hurts more, missing a party or losing your soul?" She blinked, confused, then her lips quivered. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "I know," I said. "Then start meaning something else." The words broke her. She cried, the kind of crying that empties a person. I walked around the table, sat beside her, and held her until the storm in her body quieted. "Everyone's talking about me," she said through hiccups. "They said we tricked you, that you canceled everything out of revenge. I don't know what to say." "Say the truth," I murmured, "that I loved you enough to stop pretending." She shook her head. "I just wanted it to be perfect." "Oh, sweetheart," I said softly. "It was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be real." We sat in silence. Sunlight crept across the table, turning spilled sugar to gold dust. She wiped her eyes. "Mom says you hate us." "I don't hate anyone," I said. "Hate keeps you tied to what hurt you. I just stopped giving pieces of myself to people who forgot I was a person." Her voice was small. "Are you ever going to forgive me?" "I already did," I said. "That's why you're here." I pushed the plate toward her. Pancakes, warm, imperfect, human. "Eat. You'll feel better." She picked up a fork, hesitating. "Mom's really mad." "I know. She said you embarrassed us." I smiled faintly. Sometimes love looks like embarrassment, especially when truth is standing beside it. She took a bite, slow, thoughtful. "Are you still coming to my graduation?" "If I'm invited? I want you there." Something loosened in my chest. I reached across the table and held her hand. "I'll be there," I said. "But remember this. You never have to choose between being loved and being kind. The right people won't make you pick." Her hand squeezed mine. The morning light caught in the dust, tiny specks spinning like forgiveness made visible. We didn't speak for a while. She finished her pancakes. The silence was soft now, not heavy. When she stood, she smiled, shy, tired, but real. "Thank you, Grammy," she whispered, for not yelling. "For everything. Thank you for coming home." She hugged me tighter than before, the kind of hug that says maybe, just maybe, something was learned. At the door, she turned. I'll talk to Mom. I know you will, and tell her this. Forgiveness doesn't make me weak, it makes me free. She nodded, and for the first time, I saw her not as the influencer's daughter, but as the girl who still had a heart worth saving. I watched her walk down the driveway, barefoot on wet grass, shoulders slumped but lighter. The house smelled of butter and salt air. I poured another cup of coffee and looked at the empty chair across from me. Robert would have been proud, not because I canceled a party, but because I finally understood what he tried to teach me. Love isn't the art of staying quiet. It's the courage to stay whole. The light filled the kitchen, catching the edges of the table, the rim of my cup, the faint smile on my lips. Forgiveness didn't make me smaller. It reminded the world how much space I was always meant to take. The sound of the door crashing open sliced through the quiet like thunder. Clara stood there, hair undone, mascara streaked, eyes wild. The polish was gone, no perfect curls, no flawless lipstick. Just a woman stripped of her performance. You manipulated us, she shouted, voice cracking. I turned from the kitchen table where Lila and I sat, over 2 untouched mugs of tea. No, Clara, I said evenly. I just stopped being your prop. For a second, no one breathed. Then Lila stood, her hands trembled, but her voice didn't. Mom, you lied to me. Clara blinked, stunned. I was protecting our image. Then you traded love for likes, I said. The air sharpened, the pause before lightning strikes. All this time, Layla said, tears gathering, you made me think Grammy didn't care. You said she wanted attention, that she was controlling. I was trying to keep peace, Clara snapped. You don't know the pressure, Lila. The world watches everything we do. One mistake, one wrong word, and people talk. I just wanted our family to look perfect, I cut in. You wanted it to look perfect, even if it meant breaking it apart. The words hit hard. Lila's lip quivered. Grammy's right, she whispered. We took advantage of her. Clara's face twisted. Anger, shame, disbelief, all fighting for space. You don't understand adult relationships. Lila's chin lifted. If being an adult means being cruel, then I'd rather stay a child. For the first time, Clara faltered. The silence that followed wasn't peace. It was exposure. Truth echoing against walls that used to hide behind filters. Then Clara's voice cracked. Do you have any idea what it feels like to build a life everyone admires and still never feel good enough? Lila wiped her tears. Then stop building it for everyone else. Clara's breath shook. You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to hurt anyone? I was just trying to hold everything together. No, Clara, I said softly. You were trying to hold everyone under you. She looked at me, pleading, furious, fragile. I didn't flinch. You used my money to buy validation, I said. My love to buy silence. And when that stopped working, you turned my granddaughter against me. That's not holding things together, that's control. Her eyes shimmered, the tears finally spilling. You'll never understand. I do, I said quietly. I spent half my life the same way, earning love I already had, apologizing just to keep peace. But I learned when to stop. The air left the room. Lila reached for my hand, her fingers cold and small. Grammy, she whispered, I'm sorry. For everything. I squeezed her hand. Sweetheart, learning the truth is apology enough. Clara turned away, shoulders caving. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I know, I said, but good. Intentions don't erase damage. They just hide it longer. Outside, wind rattled the windows. Inside, none of us moved. 3 women, 3 generations, bound not by comfort, but by truth. And truth weighs more than anger. It keeps you still long enough to see who you are. Lila broke the silence first. Mom, she said softly, you always said being strong means never admitting weakness. But maybe Grammy's stronger than both of us, because she finally did. Clara turned toward her, eyes raw, voice small. Maybe she is. The fight drained out of her. What replaced it wasn't defeat. It was recognition. Outside, clouds thinned. Sunlight spilled through the window, catching the edge of the table, the cooling tea, our joined hands. None of us spoke again. There was nothing left to fix, only something to finally face. For the first time, 3 women in this family stood in the same light, and none of us looked away. A week passed before the house felt like mine again. No phone calls, no slammed doors, no half apologies typed through tears, just silence, the kind that hums softly when peace starts to take root. Each morning, I watered the roses. Each evening, I walked the shoreline. I'd done it for years, but that week it felt different, like I was walking beside someone who finally understood me. Maybe Robert. Maybe just myself. Friday, 9:02 a.m. The doorbell rang. When I opened it, there stood Mr. Cole, Robert's oldest friend. His gray hair was thinner now, but his eyes were the same. Clear, steady, kind. He carried a worn leather briefcase and that quiet dignity men of his generation wore like armor. "Martha," he said, smiling, "you look stronger." "I feel stronger." He followed me to the kitchen table, the same table where everything had unraveled and rebuilt itself. I poured him coffee, black, just the way Robert used to make it. "I wasn't sure you'd go through with this," he said, setting his case down. "I wasn't either," I admitted. But then I remembered what Robert always said. If you don't teach people how to treat you, they'll teach you instead. So I decided to start teaching. He chuckled. "I heard there was a party that never happened." "You could say that." From his briefcase, he drew a thick stack of papers. Crisp, white, deliberate. He placed them on the table like something sacred. "This," he said, tapping the top page, "is the trust document. Once you sign, everything changes. The house, your savings, the investments, all transferred into the Green Trust. Are you absolutely sure?" "I'm sure," he nodded. "And the name, the Green Promise? That's beautiful." "It's not about me," I said. "It's about what comes after." He adjusted his glasses. "You're using it to fund scholarships, right? For local students?" "Yes. For kids who come from little but give a lot." And I added one clause. "Every student must write an essay each year about gratitude." He raised an eyebrow. "Gratitude?" I nodded. "Because gratitude is the highest form of elegance. Not thank you notes or polite smiles, the kind that shapes a soul, that remembers where love came from." He smiled faintly. "That's not a bad definition of legacy." "This," I said, resting my palm on the papers, "is my real legacy. Not wealth, wisdom." Silence settled between us. The kitchen clock ticked, slow, steady. Sunlight slipped through the blinds, painting golden lines across the table. "Robert would be proud," Mr. Cole said quietly. "I think so, too." He pointed to the last line. "If you're ready, sign here." I picked up the pen. My hand didn't tremble this time. The ink flowed clean. Martha Green. The gold band on my left hand caught the light, sending a shimmer across the page. I thought of the life that Ring had witnessed, laughter, loss, lessons, and smiled. Mr. Cole exhaled softly. "It's done," he said. "The Green Promise is official." He gathered the papers, careful as if they were glass. "You know," he added, voice low, "this isn't charity, it's justice." I met his eyes. "No, it's peace." He nodded almost reverently. "You've turned pain into purpose, Martha. That's rare." We walked to the door. The air outside smelled of salt and sunlight, clean and new. He paused on the porch. "Most people your age think about passing down money. You're passing down character." I smiled. "Money fades. Kindness doesn't." He tipped his hat and left. Inside, the house felt warmer. I stood at the table, hand on the spot where my name now lived in ink, and whispered, "Robert, we finally built something that lasts." The ocean wind slipped through the open window, lifting the curtains like a reply. That evening, as the sun sank into the horizon, I brewed tea and watched the sea. The sky turned pink and gold, the water glowing like forgiveness itself. Somewhere in the future, children would go to college because of this choice. And maybe one of them would read the line I wrote into the charter. "To those who understand that gratitude is the highest form of elegance, may your future be as generous as your heart." I traced the edge of the table, remembering all the things I once bought: gifts, dinners, decorations, tiny bribes for belonging. But belonging bought that way never stays. Now, for the first time, my giving wasn't payment. It was investment, not in people's approval, but in their potential. The last light of day caught my wedding ring again, warm and steady. I smiled. I had stopped trying to purchase love, and somewhere along the way, I had started investing in dignity. The house was too quiet that morning, the kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful, only wrong. Clara sat at the kitchen counter, scrolling through her inbox, her coffee untouched and cold. Then she froze. Subject, notice of trust transfer, Green Estate Holdings. Her pulse spiked. She clicked. The message was short, clinical, mercilessly clear. This is to confirm that the property located at 214 Bayshore Lane, along with associated accounts, has been successfully transferred into the Green Promise Trust. As of today, all assets are no longer held under Martha Green's personal ownership. Clara reread it, lips moving without sound. Transferred, no longer held. She scrolled down, the signature, Cole & Partners Law Group. She moved everything, she whispered, even the house. Across the room, Daniel looked up from the newspaper. What do you mean, moved everything? Clara shoved the laptop toward him. The savings, the stocks, the cottage, even the car, it's all in that trust. He read in silence. Then he exhaled slowly, the paper rustling in his hand. She finally did it. Clara frowned. Did what? Moved on, he said, from us. The words hit like glass breaking. Clara stood abruptly, knocking her chair to the floor. No, she can't just cut us out. After everything I've done for this family? Her voice cracked, a mix of anger and panic. Daniel's reply was quiet, steady. She's not cutting us out. She's correcting the story. She's punishing us. Clara's breath came fast. I'll call a lawyer. This can't be legal. Daniel didn't move. He just watched her, that hollow kind of exhaustion that comes from years of pretending not to see what's there. Clara grabbed her phone, but then she saw it. The attachment. Green Promise says, Trust Docs, DAW, PDF. 27 pages of scanned signatures, seals, dates. Every I dotted, every T crossed, airtight. Her hand froze midair. Daniel's voice softened. She didn't make mistakes this time. Not one. For a moment, only the hum of the refrigerator and the faint hiss of the ocean outside. Then Clara sank into her chair, staring at the laptop like it was a verdict written in pixels. What kind of mother does this? She whispered. Daniel's answer was simple. The kind who finally chooses herself. From the hallway came a sound, the soft creak of a floorboard. Lila stood there, half-shadowed, a notebook pressed against her chest. She had heard everything. Her eyes were red, but her voice steady. She didn't move away, Mom, she said quietly. She moved up. Clara turned sharply. You shouldn't be listening. I wasn't trying to, Lila said, stepping forward. But maybe someone finally needs to. Clara opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Lila's voice trembled, but didn't break. Grammy didn't leave us. She just stopped letting us use her to. Feel powerful. You don't lose people like that, Mom. You lose control. The silence that followed was thick, heavy, irreversible. Clara looked between her husband and daughter, realizing, maybe for the first time, she was standing alone in a house full of people she no longer commanded. Outside, the wind rose. Windows rattled. Somewhere beyond the dunes, a buoy bell tolled, one clear note across the water. Daniel reached over and closed the laptop. It's done, he said quietly. Clara stared at the black screen. Her own reflection stared back, drawn, furious, frightened. She barely recognized the woman in it. Lila turned toward the porch. The morning light caught in her hair. She paused by the open door, her voice barely above a whisper. Thank you, Grammy. Then she stepped outside into the wind. The curtain lifted with the breeze, light spilling across the table, catching the edge of the now dark laptop, the last trace of Martha Green still glowing faintly in its reflection. Some legacies are inherited in silence, but this one arrived with the sound of a door opening to the sea. The sky that evening was brushed in gold, the kind of light that lingers when the day refuses to let go. I sat on the weathered bench by the water, the one Robert and I once shared. The sea stretched endlessly ahead, calm, certain, ancient. It had seen me through everything, love, loss, and all the quiet wars in between. The air smelled of salt and jasmine. A gull cried somewhere offshore. I opened my notebook and began to write. My dearest Lila, I once believed love meant giving everything, my time, my money, my heart. But love isn't safety, it's growth. Love means teaching others to value what's given, and knowing when to say no, even when it breaks your heart. You'll meet people who adore you for what you do, your charm, your beauty, your success. but the ones who matter will love you for what you stand for. Never let them confuse the two. There will come a moment when you must choose between being liked and being respected. Choose respect. The right hearts will love you for it anyway. If you ever wonder what legacy means, don't look at what I've left behind. Look at who you become. Legacy isn't money or fame. It's the echo of kindness in the hearts you've touched. Love always, Grammy. I set down the pen. The sun had dropped lower, a burning coin melting into the horizon. The sea turned to copper and rose. I folded the letter carefully, slipped it into a cream envelope, and wrote her name in slow, deliberate cursive, Lila Green Williams. Inside the cottage, I opened the cedar box Robert had carved decades ago. Inside, our wedding rings, a Christmas photo, a handful of dried rose petals, small relics of a life lived fully. I placed the envelope on top and wrote on the lid, to be opened when I'm gone. The words looked final, but they didn't sting. They felt like release. The brass key clicked into the lock, soft, sure, like a period at the end of a sentence that had taken a lifetime to write. Then I sat by the window and watched the sea turn silver under the coming night. Across town, Clara couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet, the kind of quiet that exposes truth. She sat upright in bed, phone glowing faintly in her hand. Another headline. The Green Promise Scholarship expands, honoring a grandmother's act of grace. Hundreds of comments. An icon of generosity. A woman who turned betrayal into hope. Every word felt like a mirror she couldn't bear to face. She turned the screen over, the room dimmed. Daniel slept beside her, breathing steady, face calm, miles away. For the first time, Clara realized she hadn't lost Martha's money. She'd lost something rarer, respect. Her husband's, her daughter's, her own. She reached out, fingers grazing Daniel's arm, as if touch alone could rewind time. But he didn't stir. Tears came, not from anger, but from recognition, that she'd confused control for love, attention for affection, reputation for worth. For years, she thought she was winning. Now, lying beside a man who no longer looked at her the same, she saw the truth. Sometimes winning at life means losing yourself. She turned toward the window. Outside, stars were scattered like silver dust, small chances for redemption. She pressed her hand to the cold glass and whispered, "I'm sorry, Martha." No one heard. But maybe, somewhere by the sea, the wind carried the words home. Back in my cottage, I closed the curtains and sat at the piano. The keys were uneven, a few notes flat, but they still sang. I played slowly, the same melody Robert used to hum when the world felt too loud. The room filled with soft, imperfect music. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like someone waiting for meaning. I was meaning, built, bruised, and earned. When the last note faded, I blew out the candle by the window. The room fell into gentle shadow. Outside, waves whispered against the shore. Seabirds crossed the moonlight like strokes of silver ink. And in that quiet, I understood what peace really was. Not the absence of pain, but the certainty that everything had found its rightful place. I had said no when it mattered, forgiven when it hurt, and taught love, not by holding on, but by letting go. The sea kept moving, the light kept fading, and for the first time I didn't chase either one. The hall shimmered with music and light, rows of black gowns, the flash of cameras, the hum of applause. Among hundreds of graduates, Lila Green Williams stood still for a moment, cap slightly crooked, heart racing with that dizzy mix of pride and disbelief that comes only once. She had done it. 4 years, 12 exams, 42 essays, countless nights spent chasing words and worth. And through it all, one voice, clear as tidewater. If you ever wonder what legacy means, look at who you become. When the ceremony ended and the noise thinned into soft echoes, she found a small envelope tucked inside her bouquet. Cream paper, her name written in that familiar, looping hand, Lila Green Williams. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside was a single letter printed on parchment with embossed gold seal. "Congratulations, Lila. You have been selected as this year's recipient of the Green Promise Fund, awarded to students who remind the world that gratitude is the highest form of elegance." She pressed the letter to her chest. The words blurred behind tears. She had known the scholarship story, everyone did. The headlines, the news features. A grandmother turns betrayal into education for 100 strangers. But she had never expected this. Not her name. Not now. Her grandmother's legacy had found her, not through inheritance, not through money, but through meaning. Outside, the campus glowed in afternoon gold. The smell of the sea rode the wind. For a moment, she could almost hear it. The soft waves outside her grandmother's house, the faint notes of an old piano drifting through half-open windows. A flash, Martha by the water, silver hair catching the breeze, sealing an envelope. Another, her steady eyes saying, then start meaning something else. And then, the night the party never happened, the candles, the silence, the turning point. Images flickered like an old reel of film. Bright, imperfect, unforgettable. The woman once dismissed as too old, too stubborn, too sentimental had built something that outlasted all of them. A promise that couldn't be canceled. A truth that couldn't be edited. A legacy that couldn't be erased. Lila looked up at the sky and whispered, "You did it, Grammy. You really did." Somewhere a gull cried, sharp and clear against the wind. She smiled through her tears, folded the letter and slipped it into her pocket, right over her heart. Then she walked toward the cliffs, her graduation gown catching the wind like wings. Below her, the sea stretched endlessly, calm, blue, eternal. The same sea that once witnessed endings now shimmered with beginnings. She stood there for a long while, letting the horizon blur, warmth rising in her chest. Not grief, not loss, but gratitude. Her grandmother was gone, yes. But not really. Some people leave houses. Some leave money. The rare ones leave lessons. Lila closed her eyes, hair wild in the wind, and whispered the words that had once changed everything. "Thank you, Grammy, for teaching me how to land." The waves below answered, soft, even, and endless applause from another world. The sun was sinking low over the Charleston shore, turning the sky the color of melted gold. The air was soft, the kind that carried music, salt, and memory all at once. Lila had chosen this spot carefully, the same stretch of beach her grandmother once walked every morning, basket in hand, collecting shells that looked like stories. No photographers, no decorations. Just 6 close friends, her father Daniel, and a small record player resting on a picnic table, its speaker humming softly. Lila placed the vinyl onto the turntable, lowered the needle. A soft crackle, then Sinatra. "Fly Me to the Moon." The melody drifted into the dusk, warm and imperfect. Daniel smiled, eyes glinting in the amber light. "Your mom would have loved this." Lila looked toward the water, the waves catching threads of sun. "She's here," she said. "In everything we finally learned." The song swelled. Daniel offered his hand. "Dance with me?" She laughed, the same laugh that once filled Martha's kitchen. "You're going to step on my feet again." "I've had practice." Barefoot, they danced on the sand, slow and easy. It didn't feel like a father and daughter saying goodbye to the past. It felt like 3 generations holding hands through time. Robert, Martha, Daniel, Lila, not bound by inheritance, bound by understanding. When the record ended, Lila stepped back, reached into her pocket, and pulled out a small linen pouch. Inside were dried rose petals, the same ones her grandmother had kept in the cedar box with the letter. She knelt at the shoreline as the tide rolled in, water brushing her toes. One handful at a time, she scattered the petals into the sea. "You gave me more than a party, Grammy," she whispered. "You gave me a promise." The petals floated out, catching the light, red against silver water. For a moment, one glowed like a tiny ember before slipping beneath the waves. Daniel stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder. "You know," he said quietly, "when she canceled that gala, I thought she was breaking something. But now I see, she was fixing it." Lila nodded, eyes shining. "She didn't cancel the party," she said. "She just changed the meaning." The record clicked to a stop, the final hiss fading into the wind. Her friends gathered near the fire pit they'd built earlier. Someone struck a match. Flames bloomed, painting their faces in copper light. Laughter, music, the sound of waves. It wasn't spectacle, it was connection. The kind of celebration that didn't need chandeliers or hashtags. Lila lifted her glass. "To the green promise," she said. "To learning, to losing, to finding again." Glasses clinked. 6 voices joined the sea's endless rhythm. From above, or perhaps just from memory, the scene shimmered smaller, the fire, the laughter, the tide. Until all that remained was the reflection of the flames dancing across, The waves. For a heartbeat, it looked as if the water itself was smiling. And then slowly, over that quiet horizon, the words appeared. Luminous, certain, final. Legacy isn't what we leave behind. It's who we raise up.